All right, guys, we're here with Blake, Chris, Riff, and Ricky, and I'm gonna let Riff kind of take the reins on this.
Let's give a hand for Blake first being here. Hey. Now, anybody who doesn't know our main channel, Pixel Game Squad, there's this person that comes on camera a lot. Fiery red phoenix hair. You can't tell if he's 14 or a 48-year-old crackhead. There's that fine balance of one or the other. We have yet to find out. Blake, how old are you?
I'm 21.
21. Let's go. We got a
Fools me every single time. Fools me every time.
We are finally get to have an episode where we don't make fun of Curtis's age.
That is true.
Now we can go on with Blake. So it'll be fun.
Half your guys' age.
Blake, why don't you, before we jump in, tell everybody kind of what you collect, what's your thing, just so people kind of get to know you who don't know you before we jump in.
So I collect a lot of shirts. I'm getting into more media, but I have been a shirt guy since like 2018, 2019, when they were like $10, $15 online, and now they're $150, $200 shirts, which is pretty cool because my collection skyrocketed in price.
It has some value.
Yeah,
but then you're also
value.
getting waxed when you buy them now.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
When you guys did a video at his house. Oh, sorry, Chris. You can go.
Would you say you were buying shirts in when you were like 15, 16 years old is when you started?
Yeah,
Nice.
that's when I started.
Pretty
yeah.
young.
But I wasn't reselling them at that point. I was everything I was buying was for me. I thought they were cool at the time. I was like, I wonder if there's any vintage Scooby-Doo shirts out there. And I went online, I found some, and I was like, oh, they're like $10, $15. Like, that's cheaper than a brand new shirt. Might as well buy these. And then after a time, like COVID happened and they all skyrocketed in price.
So you're 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So at that point, you only looked like 42.
Yeah, only like 40, 42.
No, speaking of collecting, yeah, kind of what we wanted to dive into is, it's funny, like a few, maybe weeks ago, months ago, we kind of talked about how come collectors never finish sets. That was like our big conversation. Like, you know, people would be like, I'm collecting the NES set, never finished. Super Nintendo set, never finished. I'm going to do the Genesis set, never finished. Whatever it may be. And I think it like struck a chord with Ricky and I, because our old show was the NES Pursuit. We were like, I feel like some of the first people in the retro game scene that were like, let's get every NES game.
Oh, yeah.
That was our show. And it was like 2012. That was early game hunting. But we never did it. And we make fun of it all the time. Like, you don't need to do it. Need to do that and that, this and that. But then when we talk, sometimes at night, there'd be like that pause, like, like we never finished it. That really, and it like almost like struck something in us, like, let's start collecting the NES set again, like relaunch like our passion with like, I feel like when a lot of people do things on YouTube, like collecting a set, there's so many rules they set for themselves. Like, I can only use this budget, or I can do this, or I need to get only these type of games. Ricky and I are like, any NES game that we don't have, that we don't see, we want to buy from now on, no matter what. This includes stadium events. This includes the Pan Asian games. This includes the Color Dreams games. This includes any set, bootlegs. Yep. Bootlegs in the backyard of Mexico. Like, we will buy it.
NWC cart?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gold and gray.
What? Gold and
You heard me? You heard me? Did I start?
Did you guys ever figure out
super
how
high.
Yeah, did you guys ever figure out how close you were when you were doing the NES Pursuit?
We got pretty close. We were probably, actually, I don't even know if we were close. We were probably close to like 5.
It was like unintentional because back then it was like, we're going to get every NES game, but like there was no like structure. It was just like, where are we at in the count? I don't know. Do you have 28 copies of Duck Hunt? Probably. I don't know. Like, there was no like organization to it. Now, you know, we have it kind of figured out. We're using price charting right now. Currently, that might change depending on maybe Phoenix Resales app, depending. One Up, I think is what it's called. Shout out to that. I don't know where it's at by the time this video goes out. But right now, it's funny. At the time of this filming, so I don't know, when you watch this, it might be later, but we've only filmed twice and we're like at 136 games. I feel like now we have like wisdom. You know, with age comes wisdom. Blake, you'll learn. No, but with, you know, we've kind of had better wisdom. We're in better financial places. I will say we were talking last night. What was our honest budget for like games back then?
$40 for the weekend, if that.
That's it.
That was it. When you went to the flea market.
Imagine going to the flea market, Blake, with $40 and that was your budget, no matter what.
I feel like that's kind of how I started.
Yeah.
Like $40.
What do you bring now?
Whatever it takes, you know what I mean?
I don't want to say, you don't get mugged.
He only brings Venmo, I swear. Every time he goes up to a vendor, he goes, take Venmo?
These new kids these days.
I mean, we were talking about it the other day, and we said we're about $400 or $500 on a weekend, I think, at the flea. At Golden
same,
West.
same.
Yeah, easily. Sometimes more.
A lot of
on
times
a light
more.
weekend, maybe 200-300.
I feel like I always will be like, I'm going to bring 500 cash, and then the minute I go to Dusty's, I'm like, I better go back to the ATM.
Yeah, I'm always just making ATM trips now.
Yeah.
$40 would last like one purchase. Maybe.
And again, more power to you, or if that is only your budget, awesome. Totally stick within your means. We've said that before on the show. That's super huge. Don't go buying hundreds of dollars worth video games if your budget really is $40 or $20. Be smart. Don't go into debt. But what we're just saying is that now where we're at, we have a little bit more financial freedom of being able to be like, hey, I want this game that's, $100. Yes, I will pay $80 if I need it. We passed on Stadium events for $70 back in the day.
No, Little Samson.
Little Samson. Sorry, we passed on Little Samson.
Passed on it.
Little
$70.
Samson for $70.
Wasn't even that long ago, like 2013 maybe.
He wanted 100, and we're like, he's like
A
70.
long time ago for me.
How old were you?
I was 2013. I was 11.
Oh,
And I was graduating high school, so which is
I was playing my PS2 games.
oh, Chris was filling out his retirement papers. I'm saying, I feel like that one hurt. That's the first time I ever made a joke at Chris or after. He's like, dang.
just
Trying to
age
think
me.
how old I was in 2013. Let's see, 19. Oh man, yeah, 20. What is that? 10 years ago? 30s, late mid 30s, like mid 30s.
Okay, like my age.
Yeah. You're in later 30s now.
I'm a late 30s.
No, Rick told me this like interesting thing. Like it was pretty funny. He goes, "We're gonna ask like this really good question. Like, do people take you like seriously at swap meets, looking the way?" You
And I
do?
say that with love.
But no, it was
they
funny
don't.
though.
No,
So,
like
let me-
no
let me
one
see-
expects.
No, like-
Let's say this for the audio listeners before you go on. Blake, we joke around. Skinny, you look very young.
Yes.
Again, like
Yeah.
I said, I was literally joking, but you either look really old or super young,
Yeah.
like
Super young.
12.
Yep.
But he also dresses like a 75-year-old, but it's like a cool 75-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll dress like I'm from the 70s. I'll dress from the 80s, 90s.
Ooh, you know who you kind of look like? If your hair was combed a little differently and it was darker, Nikolai Tesla, the creator of alternate current and
Love
everything.
that. I'll take that. Yeah, that's awesome.
By the way, I just learned today that he was celibate his entire life, but I don't know why I'm saying that, but I just learned that today.
Well,
So,
he had an attraction towards some like inanimate object.
I mean, he was a actual genius.
Yeah, he was a
But,
genius.
Okay, going on to what Curtis said. Do you have experiences, stories where people completely don't take you serious, realize you're a hustler and you're doing it right, or what?
I would say like at a lot of flea markets, people don't like showing me what they have in their trucks. Like you know how like there's a lot of side deals that are done.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't like bringing me to like where the good stuff is because they don't think I'm willing to pay up for anything.
Don't bring this guy by the van.
I was going to say, is that because you look sketch?
They know Blake will throw him in the back of the van immediately.
But honestly, like, if I come around enough, people understand that like I am willing to spend quite a bit of money on things. Like Dusty, he's realized that.
So you're 21 now. At what age was it, or even how recently? Maybe it was, I don't know. I want to hear. Was it a long time ago or recent to where you started to be able to like throw down cash, like good money? Because I remember when I even first met you, I didn't know really much about you. You just were a cool guy, friends with Chris. And I remember being at the swap, and I think it was Dusty again. But I just remember him being like, "Oh, $600 for these shirts," and I just remember you like not questioning or something and paying. And I was like, "Oh wow, like this guy's a hustler."
Well, when I first met Blake, let me jump in on this. So he was selling shirts to me. That was probably 3-4 years ago now.
4 years ago now.
So he was hustling then. He was going to the Goodwill bins. You were buying shirts. He was coming into my shop and selling them to me. And we were working out. I don't know, maybe I was buying those shirts off you for $7-8. They were more common, like anime shirts and stuff like that. But at that time, so if it was 4 years ago, you were probably like 17, 18.
I think I was 18. Maybe actually no, I was 17 still. I just maybe turned 18.
Okay.
And what would you say your financial situation at that point was?
Oh, I was still working at Dairy Queen at the time.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You know
I used to
how
go in
to
and
do
get blizzards from
Yeah.
The one on PCH?
No, on Warner.
He knows how to do the perfect swirl. That's the
Has there
Yeah.
ever been a Dairy Queen gone wrong where you flipped it and it came down?
I was perfect.
Don't-
Perfect
Imagine
employee.
if that happened.
All right, real talk. Is Dairy Queen like do you like now looking back, you're like, yeah, this place was like rad, like awesome, good run business, or are you like, dude, that's a gnarly place?
He
behind the
was
scenes?
honestly, he was a great first boss. Yeah, he was he wasn't like a mean guy, but if I I definitely needed to get out of there. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't making that much money.
Is Chris a better boss?
Yes, by far the best boss I've ever had. By far.
Two
Yeah.
bosses.
Can all come work for me.
We'll ask you after the podcast. He holds it. Blink twice if you're okay.
Now, when you guys shot a video at Blake's, like, how was that experience? Like, seeing his just, I bet it wasn't as big of a collection now, but how was it when you guys shot that video over there?
Oh, dude, it was cool. Blake has some gnarly, weird stuff. Blake has like weird, cool stuff, like Ninja Turtle stuff, shirts I've never seen. This sweater I wanted to buy off him, Simpson stuff. Okay, so the bootleg stuff is like insane that he has. And I love bootleg stuff, but he's got some stuff I've never seen. Still don't see.
So Blake has taught me about shirts a ton. In fact, everything I learned about buying shirts, from like looking at tags to how to identify them, like that, I got an education from you on that. You were by far the most educated I've ever met on shirts. And then I think I reciprocated that to you by
With media.
teaching you about media, games, pretty much all these other things that you can sell. So.
I remember going to your house and being very, very impressed is the word. Again, because, you're young, right? Yeah. And there is a little bit of like, that comes with that. Like, you kind of have to prove yourself to some people. Not to us. Obviously, we brought you in with open arms. Come here, Blake. He was so fuzzy-headed that we loved you too much. But when we went to your place, I was just immediately like, wow, like the kind of video games you have were like the weird PS2 games. The VHS collections that you had were like what I like, the weird, the dumb, the
one-on-ones.
It's just so funny because when you first get into any, genre, like say you get into horror, you get people who are like, dude, don't worry, I found like a bunch of horror VHS tapes, and they're bringing you all the ones they would expect to be good. They're bringing out all the names the It that you've seen 1,000 times, the Exorcist one you've seen 1,000 times, but it's like the weird, the funky, the B, the C horror where,
And what I'm impressed is at your age, being only 21 and starting at like 15, 16, 17, one, your hustle, like just have a really good hustle mentality. But two, to like, you are almost as knowledgeable on stuff that we grew up with. Like, you're buying things that, we're more aware. I can look at something and be like, that's cool because I remember that was cool. Versus you have no knowledge of half this stuff.
I'm just taking a shot.
Yeah, and you take a shot, but you have a good eye for it. It takes an eye. Not everybody can do that.
He's been teaching you about games. What's like your favorite style of like era of video games? Like, do you leach more towards NES, SNES?
PS2 by far.
PS2.
Yeah, my PS2 collection has grown a lot recently. I've had some excess cash, so I've been buying
the
games
flex.
I can.
Yeah, right.
The flex, though. I like it. That's why he wears baggy pants to fit all the cash in there.
Are those the hookup ones?
No, I wish. I should have worn those, though. I love those pants. Another sad story with those.
You can tell that story.
Yeah,
that's a great story.
That's a great story.
Tell the full story. Tell me who Dusty is. So tell him.
So I was at Dusty's booth at Long Beach Flea Market, and he had pulled out 2 pairs of Hookups pants, and they're like from the first or second year Hookups like was like a company, and he's like letting me look at them, and I was questioning it because they were expensive pants, and he was asking a lot of money for them, and I was like, let me walk around, Dusty, and I set him down, and I was talking to his like brother, I think, and Dusty asked me where the pants were, and I turned around and I was like, oh, they're right there, and they were gone, and I was like, oh no! Like,
how much was he asking on them?
He was asking like, think $300 a pair, and he wanted 5 for both.
What were they worth? Would you estimate?
I honestly think
700?
like $700-800 a piece in my opinion.
Ooh.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Hookups, the skateboarding brand, their pants. Yeah. What's crazy about that story too is Ricky and I almost never go to that swap meet, and we walked up right after they got stolen. And I was like, Blake, what up, dog? Like, shit, my boy.
The look of worry on my face,
If you could see him, Blake is a white guy, but he was like white
pale.
Guy. He was like
Ghost
clear,
pale.
see-through. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what happened to him? He's like, he couldn't even like tell us the story. And
I was so
Was that at
flustered.
Long Beach that happened?
that was a
Oh, man, that sucks.
the timing too. Ricky and I walked up as it happened. Almost
As
like
it
the
hap-
time we walked up as your sculptor's cut or whatever it was. Got stolen.
That was like 5 minutes
Wow.
after that.
Tragedy happens right before I come.
Coincidence. Meanwhile, next time you show up on the podcast, you have sick Hookups pants on. There's a sculptor's cut.
It's all thrown into Ricky's 3 sheds.
I know. Ricky's 14
We're just
sheds.
connecting the dots over here.
now specifically to like swap meets, do you have any like crazy swap meet story where you found like your best item?
Oh, one that got me into media was Chris knew someone that was selling VHS at the Long Beach flea market, and we pulled up, and it was just banger VHS tapes, and they were $1, $2 a piece. All like horror, Japanese, like Toho video stuff, and I had no idea about VHS.
Oh, that was Juan. That was Juan and David that had that. For Juan is
Secret Game Stash.
And oh my gosh, we should have bought the whole.
We should have bought the entire thing. We must have bought I think I bought 100 tapes for like $200, and that was back then. I was like kind of like worried about it. I was worried about it.
It was a lot of like bootleg, like Japanese stuff that you don't see. There was like the Godzillas and stuff.
Is there like an estimated value on what that lot was worth?
Oh man, I don't know. Some of those tapes were probably $50 to $100 a piece.
I sold a lot of them. I sold a couple of them for like $150, $200.
We didn't realize it until after we went home that day.
I started looking them up.
We started looking them up. We were like, oh my gosh, these are like $50, $100 tapes. I called Juan within like an hour, and I was like, we're going to be right back there. And he's like, oh, some guy just came and bought them all.
You know what's funny? One of my
like maybe 1,000 left.
One of my best VHS stories was buying a ton of horror VHS for $1 each, and the variant cover of Killer Clowns was in there. All the Grail horror VHS, and at the time I was like kind of newer to it, and I took them straight to Chris. And in my opinion, you got a good deal, but in my opinion, I waxed you because I paid like $70. You gave me like $850.
Did I give you $850?
Dude, yeah, but
I'm trying to remember VHS.
They were bangers, and there was I'm talking like
must have been early on.
I'm talking like $400 VHS tapes, like a good amount of them.
It's not coming to memory right now, but I mean that's still a good deal if you felt like you hosed me and I was probably like I hosed you.
Yeah, you got it, sucker.
That's a win-win though.
Yeah, that's still a win-win. Absolutely.
Now each of you guys have been actually getting like into like the storage units, right, and buying things from people. You guys had a tip off from Dusty. How was that with all the VHS and all that? Can you explain to the
Man, that was a lot of work at the end of the day.
That was 2 straight days.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier this morning because we were like, how many? We were looking at another lot that's 30,000 VHS.
So you bought a storage locker full of just so the audience knows.
Yeah. So it was a storage locker from Dusty. Dusty gave us the tip. Dusty didn't want to deal with it. Afterwards, we said to Dusty, "We know now why you didn't want to deal with it because it took us 2 full days to clear that out."
Wow.
I mean, we must have moved. A lot of them were just garbage VHS, so they got thrown out. So we're picking, medium to good ones. We took, I don't even know how many boxes, maybe 10, 15 full big boxes.
I think it ended up being 16 boxes.
So you took them and Blake just watched you take them?
No, him and I, when we do deals like that, we split them 50-50. So we paid for the unit 50-50. We didn't know it was in there, and then we divvy up.
No, I was talking about his strength. I wasn't talking about how much he took.
Oh, strength-wise, yeah. No, I'm definitely
he did most of the heavy lifting.
I'm definitely the muscle of the two. But we have a funny thing we do afterwards. So when we bought that lot, like we have now 15 boxes of VHS, say it's 1,500 VHS. We open up everyone, we rock, paper, scissors, who goes first. We lay them all out and we pick one at a time. It takes hours to go through that.
We used to do that.
It's really fun, actually. I actually love it, enjoy it. We'll sit there for hours doing it. I smoke him at rock, papers, and scissors.
I've never won.
Like, I am so in his head. I got him every time. He gets so mad.
I never win rock, paper, scissers.
Like, can we just do a coin flip at this point? This isn't fair.
You're my employee and you'll do what I say.
But that was a good score.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
When you guys were able to get that one unit with one of the fans of the show, and you saw those Japanese toys, how was that?
Go ahead, Ricky.
Dude, that brought back a lot of memories. That's a lot of Voltron, a lot of Transformers. Dude, he had some great stuff. I didn't even realize it was the vintage Transformers until I brought it in here. We started looking at it. I was like, dude, this is the real one. I thought those were the repro.
That storage locker, we bought pretty much the majority of the storage locker, and I'd say it was the most we've ever been reached out to from our audience after a video dropped, because it was just full of so much good. It wasn't just like, when someone sells you a collection, it's typically like, some common NES games, common Super Nintendo, common PS2, whatever it may be. It was like 70 uncommon TurboGrafx games, 30 uncommon Jaguar games, Neo Geo MVS consoleized, Jaguar consoles. It was all the weird stuff. And then the toys, it was the same eclectic taste. It was all like the 80s and 90s Voltrons and Transformers. The boxes are 4 feet tall. Like everything was just insane. And just everybody was reaching out. We want to buy this. We want to buy this. We want to buy this. We kept some of it, sold some of it. Ricky kept most of the toys.
I kept most of the
That
toys.
giant Voltron, dude.
I feel like I used to get more scores like that. Maybe one a year. I feel like I only get one now, one every couple years. I feel like they're fewer and far
Yeah, man,
between.
get better at hunting.
Well, that one also did like semi walk into my store, which was funny. The guy had come in, said he was interested in selling that stuff. Somehow that didn't coordinate back to me.
Yeah, bro,
right?
get waxed.
I know, I got waxed.
Get
I'm not
waxed,
gonna lie,
bro.
I was a little bit like, oh man, dude, that one stung a little bit because I was like, man, I could have had that one.
I'll be honest. I think he was more comfortable selling to us because he watched the show. So he was more just like, he felt like he knew us in a sense. So obviously, I'm sure you guys treated him well too. But back then, I don't think at the time you were on the show much or the podcast. So he just wasn't as comfortable as letting it
That
go.
matters a lot too.
Yeah.
Now with like the new announcement of you guys like really starting your pursuit, like I really liked how on like one of your first videos you tell the audience like, hey, it's okay not to spend the money just because of your budget, right? Like I think when the guy was like trying to double you up and you're like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Kind of explain like how you're going to go into approaches with conventions and all those type of deals.
Yeah, so I do say Ricky and I obviously were better in financial situations when we were, 10 years ago. But just because I have that financial situation, I'm not going to be allowing myself just to get hosed on prices just so I get content, right? And I feel like that's a mistake sometimes content creators can make. It's like, well, I need the footage. I need footage. I'm just going to pay, $15 on this $10 game. But I had to teach myself, and we've filmed the first episode. By this time goes out, I'm sure the audience will have seen it. Hopefully they did on Pixel Game Squad. But I went to a booth and I'm like, it was my first booth back into the show, back into NES Pursuit day one. Like, here we go, gonna buy NES games. I go to the booth, all commons, and I'm like, sweet, I need every single one of these because we're day one, 0 games. I picked up a stack of like 30 games. And I'm like, all right, dude, how much for all of them? And I'm talking like they're like the $3 games, the $4 games at most. And he's just like, I can't go anything below 10 each. And I was like, all right, man, I'll take those 2. And it was almost like a good for him to see it too. Like he had a buyer willing to spend money, what it's worth even. But I just had to teach myself. I walked away like, I know I wanted the content. I know I wanted to be able to say I bought 35 games right away. But I'm like, no, I stuck to my guns, and I felt like I walked away with like a little more pride than I would have,
So what's the plan? Like, what maybe kind of rules are you setting for yourself? Are you going to go on eBay? Or
No.
So only in the wild?
Not necessarily only in swap meet, but it can be trade events, conventions, swap meets, flea markets, storage units, private sellers. Blake, where you could say, hey, I have NES games I don't want. You can buy them off me that way.
So I'd call that all in the wild. In my opinion, to me, that's all in the wild. I would just say if you were going online buying.
No online purchase at all.
Adding thousands of dollars.
We're going to your place next, Chris.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. 20% off?
Sure. For you
Let's
guys.
go.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Sweet.
Called it now.
I don't even get 20%.
Yeah, bro.
I get 15.
You got to wait till you hit 25.